Hi, I'm Greg Dell with attorneys Dell and Schaefer, and today attorney Alex Palamara and I are going to discuss a kind of a statement slash question that we get all the time, which is, don't the disability insurance companies deny all long-term disability claims? And I, I mean, Alex, what's your response to that question?
I mean, I wouldn't think that they deny all claims because if that got out, it'd be a national scandal. And I mean, a part of me says yes, but of course, the only people that contact us are the people, typically the people that had their claims denied. So a lot of the people I speak to have had their claims denied, but there could be thousands upon thousands of people that I don't speak to that are currently getting approved. But the key to this is to not get denied.
So the statistics that we've seen, and they come out through these National Council of Disability Insurance Awareness, is that they approve more than 85% of claims. But whether or not that's true or not, we'll never know because they just don't. We can't get that data, and it's not released. But an approval is not always the full story because you have short-term disability and you have long-term disability. So approved one day and denied the next, especially short-term to long-term. So how often do you see a short-term disability approval and then a long-term disability denial, and why do you see that often?
I mean, all the time people contact me and say, I don't get it. I got short-term disability for 3 months or 6 months, and now when I'm transitioning to long-term, they deny my claim. They say nothing's changed. And I go, I agree with you. If nothing's changed, you didn't miraculously get better. I don't understand why they can take the same documentation and approve your short-term and then deny your long-term. But then sometimes I take a closer look at the case once I hire them or they hire me on as to be their attorney, and I see that maybe not enough proof was there, or they left an opening for the insurance company to actually deny the long-term disability claim.
And so I find that most denials happen early on, more so than, well, that's not, I guess as I'm saying that, I'm kind of flip-flopping because a lot happened initially and a lot happened around changes of definition, changes of the person handling the claim, changes in doctors. So there's lots of different times it happens. But when we think about the initial thing, there's this concept called return to work. And there's even these return to work guidelines. What are those, and why are those so heavily relied upon by disability insurance companies to initially deny claims that might have been approved for a few weeks or a few months?
I mean, they want to deny everybody's claim. So they want to speak to your doctors, get these forms filled out where they can get approval saying, hey, this person can return to work, return to the requirements of their previous occupation, so they get clearance to essentially deny your claim. So they're going to look at the requirements of your occupation. They probably, actually, to be honest with you, they probably, when they send these forms out to the doctors, probably have very basic, no requirements of your occupation. It's going to say, can this person sit? Can this person stand? Can this person reach, at desk level, yada, 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 depending on what your job is. And then once the doctor fills out the form, they're going to use it against you to deny your claim.
And what is the significance in terms of how a doctor fills out the forms? And are there any bias in these disability claim forms?
I mean, it can make or break your claim. Even if you have the greatest medical records, a doctor filling out a form incorrectly could be very detrimental to your claim and ultimately, end up as the reason for denying your claim. And most of the forms, I won't say all of the forms, but a lot of the forms I see are very biased because they give your doctor like four boxes to check mark, and it's anywhere from sedentary, light, medium, or heavy, but there's no check mark for less than sedentary. So the insurance company or your doctor filling out the form and say, hey, I'm going to check mark the one all the way to the left because that means that it's the least restrictive. It's basically probably it's at least the smallest option I have. So I'll check mark this, thinking I'm supporting my client's claim. Meanwhile, it says sedentary. Then the insurance company says, hey, your doctor says you can do sedentary work. Your job is sedentary. Now we're denying your claim. So it's kind of a biased form. You have to be careful. It's a good thing to always point out to your doctors, hey, doctor, just because it's not there in the form, you can always put, make your own mark and say less than sedentary or no ability whatsoever or whatever it may be. So I do see a lot of these forms being biased, leaving out options for the doctors, leaving the doctor no option to put, an X in a different spot or putting zero, like 0 hours per day or whatever it may be.
All right. A lot of claimants also are compelled by their disability policies to apply for Social Security disability. And we know, because that is a national statistic, being that it's a government benefit, that less than 15% of initial applications for Social Security disability are approved. And very often, if you're denied for Social Security disability, the long-term disability carrier will then also deny your claim. Should there be a correlation between a Social Security disability denial and a long-term disability insurance denial?
By no means. And again, I'm not a Social Security disability attorney. I don't really handle those type of claims. About all my clients that are on long-term disability have to apply for Social Security disability. So I see a lot of those outcomes all the time. And what I see is most people get denied initially by Social Security. Like you're saying, 85% of people or something like that get denied initially by Social Security. Then they have to go through the long appellate process. But what I notice from my own clients that eventually they get approved from Social Security. So it kind of, in my book, it seems that everybody gets denied from Social Security at first. And ultimately, if you keep on fighting all the way through and you have a real claim, not a kind of a fake claim or a BS claim, you're ultimately going to get approved from Social Security. So when they utilize someone's denial who's been on claim, for long-term disability for less than 2 years, even before the full process for Social Security has played itself out, and they use it as justification for denying a long-term disability claim, I think it's very disingenuous for the insurance companies to do that because, they have the same amount of experience that I do handling these claims, that they realize that Social Security might ultimately approve this person's claim 6 months from now. And the best part is, once they deny your claim and 6 months later, while you're still fighting for your appeal or waiting for your lawsuit for long-term disability, Social Security is going to approve your claim. And then once that happens, Lincoln's going to come back to you and say, hey, I'm sorry we denied your claim. You've now been approved for Social Security benefits. They've paid you a bunch of back benefits for the same time period that we've paid you for those 2 years. You owe us money. So it's like insult to injury. We denied your claim and now pay us back $30,000 and we're still denying your claim or whatever it may be,
So we talked about, not every long-term or short-term disability insurance claim gets denied. But what, from your experience, do you see as like the average time period that a disability insurance claim approval is going to last before they start to ruffle feathers of a claimant?
I mean, if you're lucky enough to get approved at first and you get through the first few months, because sometimes they'll approve you just for a few months and then say, you're better, your shoulder injury got better, or whatever it may be, you got better and you can go back to work now. But if you're going to be on claim for longer than a few months, I mean, it's definitely the 24-month period. Most Lincoln policies have what's known as change in definition of disability. For the first 24 months, you have to be unable to perform the duties of your own occupation. And then after 24 months, it becomes any occupation for which you're qualified based on your training, education, and experience. And beyond that, a lot of the policies have limiting language where they'll only pay 24 months for certain disabling conditions like mental health related, substance abuse related. Sometimes there's neuromuscular limitations, soft tissue limitations, sometimes limitations for chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia. Essentially anything that there's no objective evidence for or limited objective evidence for, they love to deny those claims at 24-month mark, or sometimes the policies require them or says that they're allowed to deny a claim at that point.
So what would be your tips or suggestions for someone who's been approved a claim, they're on for a few months, and they really want to be doing everything they can to keep themselves on claim? And I know obviously there's hundreds of medical conditions that we've dealt with, but generally speaking, what would you suggest to a claimant to protect their benefits so that they can continue?
Right. It's not rocket science to prove your claim for benefits. Ultimately, it's proof. And like the old saying goes, it's not what you know. You know you're disabled, your back hurts, this, that, and the other, but it's what you can prove. So how do you prove to a disability insurance company that you are disabled and still should get benefits? And proof is in the form of medical documentation. So you have to go, even if your doctor says, listen, I don't need to see you for 9 months. There's nothing I can do, I don't need to see you for 9 months. But still you have to prove to the insurance company that you remain disabled. Key is always continually going to your doctor on a regular basis, ordering updated medical records, and keep the insurance company, well fed with medical documentation. The key is proof. Proof is medical documentation, medical report, of support from your treating providers. It's kind of that simple.
And you really did simplify it there, but it gets into a lot more detail with each specific medical condition. And we know from all these different medical conditions that there's certain key things that the disability insurance company is going to look for. But you brought up one great point. There's a difference between what your doctor thinks is medical care and treatment versus what is sufficient proof for the disability insurance company. And that's a big distinction, because like you said in your example, the doctor could say, come back in 9 months. Well, you and I both know that's not going to fly with most disability insurance carriers. And and then the claimant's going to be like, I followed my doctor. He or she said, don't come back in 9 months. Well, in the meantime, it's been 2 or 3 months. The disability insurance company is asking for an attending physician statement or updated medical records, and you don't have any. And all of a sudden they're like, well, if you haven't been to the doctor in 3 months, we assume that you're okay. So, is that a common occurrence that you encounter, and how do you deal with that?
I tell my clients, you got to go to the doctor and maybe just get a second opinion. So you have another doctor, new medical records showing that you have these conditions, and more, diagnostic testing showing you have these conditions. You need the medical documentation to prove to the insurance company that you remain disabled.
And another thing is that's a sad reality, is that you could go to the doctor on a particular day and be having what's considered a good day for your medical condition. And you go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, how do you feel? And your good might be, if we use a scale of 1 to 10, might be like, on that particular day, you're feeling like a 3, and you say, oh, I'm feeling okay. I'm like 3 out of a 10, which would be someone's normal, like 8 out of a 10, for having really bad pain on that day. And the doctor writes, patient says that they're feeling okay. Well, okay might be a day where you have 2 or 3 hours of pain as opposed to 8 or 9 hours of pain, and you actually had a night where you slept without waking up 6 or 7 times. And the insurance company takes that interpretation, you're feeling okay, that you're ready to go back to work. So the tips I always give to all my clients is, you can't go to the doctor and be Superman. You unfortunately have to go in with the totality of how you were feeling over the past 2 months or 4 weeks or however long it's been, and not give the exact feeling of how you are at that moment if you happen to be good, because no good deed goes unpunished in the disability insurance world. And if you walk in there and are like, hey, I'm okay today, because you don't want to complain. You can't live your life in this misery. But reality versus what the disability insurance company is going to evaluate doesn't apply. So you have to go in and give a summary of what your symptoms and feelings have been rather than that exact day, or you're likely going to end up with a claim denial.
100%. And 2 things. The insurance companies, when they deny claims, they go through your medical records, and like you're saying, they look through the medical records to say where it says feels good or strong, or they take these words, and they could, there could be 2 paragraphs of your doctor writing a report, and they'll take 2 sentences or 2 words, and they'll run with it, and they'll quote it into the denial letter and say, this is the reason why we're denying your claim. On this date, your doctor said you're doing good. The other thing I want to point out is that, kind of like what you're saying, you have to be very verbose and explain to your doctor, obviously explain to your doctor that you're either getting disability benefits or filing for disability insurance benefits, because the doctor, when they write the reports, they're not writing reports to convince an insurance company that you are disabled. They're writing a report to treat you, so the next time when you come back in, they can look at their reports and get updated and say, how are you doing now, and what do we need to fix now, or maybe get an update in your medical records. But not being very verbose, explaining exactly what you're complaining about that day or the time before. So you need to kind of explain to your doctor that you are making claim for disability benefits, and ask them to take as much notes as possible, because you might be using these reports to prove to the insurance company that you are disabled. So a doctor, sometimes they be very brief, sometimes they're messy handwriting, and it doesn't get typed out, and sometimes the insurance company can't even read their handwriting, especially in mental health claims. I see a lot of those reports, and they're just kind of messes. I can't even read them. But you have to explain to your doctor that we might be using these reports to support your claim for disability insurance benefits, so to be as descriptive as possible, and what you're complaining about, or what he sees or she sees.
Right. Those are some excellent points that you have, and we have done a lot of videos about, from the perspective of how do you work with your doctor for an attending physician statement, and how to handle a claim during an appeal. And the other thing is that while we're talking about do disability insurance companies deny all claims, we have videos about every single disability insurance company, and they all have different tactics, strategies, claim forms. And so I encourage our people watching these videos to check out our other videos and specifically search by their particular disability company to learn the nuances of their own company. Certainly, we encourage you to subscribe to our videos and to watch for these regular videos that we're doing. And most importantly, no matter who your disability insurance company is, feel free to call Alex, myself, any of our disability insurance attorneys. We always offer a free initial consultation to discuss your claim, and we're available to represent you anywhere in the country. So we look forward to the opportunity to speak with you, and thank you for considering our law firm.